Real quick note about audio quality for the first 5 or so minutes of today's chat. I didn't realize, but I was using my webcam's mic for my input, and it sounds awful, but I catch the mistake soon, and it gets back to sounding normal. So just bear with us. All right, let's get into it. Do you want a new module? Some patch cables? Some cassettes? A t-shirt? Stickers? Blank panels? Well, if you've answered yes to any of the above, then you're in luck. Head over to patreon.com/PodularModcast and be on the lookout for my post that I'm going to be making around mid to late March. I don't want to say when. It's going to be kind of a, when's it going to happen type thing. Also want to give you a chance to sign up if you haven't signed up yet. I have put together 10 different little care packages, 4 of which have a module in them to pass on. It's just a bunch of stuff that I have. I love this stuff, but I've got too much stuff. It's coming out of my ears, and I want to pass it on to my Patreon community as a token of my appreciation. So the way it's going to work is when that post comes up, you're going to go to the comments section and you're going to say, I want some, and that's going to be how it goes. The reason I'm only doing 10 is because if I did more, shipping would probably get out of hand, and I don't want to charge people for shipping for a gift. That seems kind of weird. So yeah, if that sounds like fun, and if any of this stuff that you see whizzing across the screen right now is at all interesting looking to you, then once again, head over to patreon.com/PodularModcast and help keep the LEDs blinking over here at PodMod. This week's episode is brought to you by Novation and their flagship 2-part, 16-voice, 61-key polyphonic synthesizer, the Summit. Built on the same innovative foundations as the critically acclaimed Peak, Summit's deep sound design capabilities, 16-voice, 2-part multi-timbral engine, and intuitive tactile workflow add up to a synth that is far more than the sum of its parts. For more information, please visit novationmusic.com, link in the show description. Hello and welcome back to Podular Modcast. My name is Tim Held, and this week we finally have maybe one of the most requested guests on the show. You guys have been asking for it. I just realized I sounded like a bad parent just now. But this week we have Colin Benders on the show, and we have a fantastic conversation. I don't think I need to do much of an intro to let you know who Colin is. If you know about this show, I am sure you know who Colin Benders is. So we're going to get into that very soon. But first, I just want to show you some cool stuff that I've got lately. This thing. I love this thing. This is the Coma Field Kit in the box. So many cool features on that, and we'll talk about those in a moment. I've also recently got some new 4MS modules. I got the mini peg, the DLD, which if you've been listening to the show long enough, you know how much I love the DLD, and we were apart for far too long, but we are reunited, and yes, it feels so good. And then, I've got this, the new shuffling clock multiplier. What I really like about using the peg and the shuffling clock multiplier together is you can actually, by arranging some jumpers on the back of each module, you can send the clock from the peg into the SCM without any patch cables. So that has been very, very useful. And as you see, I've got my percussion interface and interface expander here from 4MS. I've been using that for a long time. And we're gonna get into a video shortly where I use all of this stuff and this stuff, including the dual shaped envelope VCA from 4MS, and then I'm going to use one of my favorites, the cutting room floor from Recovery Effects, the Nautilus from Qubit, the injector from Board Brain, and the Listen 4 quarters from 4MS. But before we get too far into that, I want to show you some of my favorite aspects and little doodads that came along with my Coma Field Kit. kit. So let's do that. So the Coma Field Kit is kind of the field recordist slash experimental musician's dream instrument for many reasons. One of my favorite things is with the expansion pack, it comes with a bunch of little solenoid motors and weird things like that can actually be fed off of this driver here, this DC driver. So, for instance, I think that's pretty cool. So you could use that for a little percussive thing out in the field, send some gates, triggers to it, whatever you'd like. There's also a motor that spins. I seem to have misplaced mine. I did not lose it. It's only misplaced, and I'm gonna try to make that be like this really fast, like guitar strummer. But then one of my other favorite aspects is the speaker and the AM FM radio on it. And you can use CV to tune the radio. So you can make some cool little rhythmic things out of your radio signal. Also, as you see, it comes with a little speaker. The speaker has its own output. There's also an auxiliary out and a main out, so you can use it for to send signals to other devices or whatever you'd like. It also came with a bunch of piezo pickups, and I'm going to show you what I did with those. You may have seen on Instagram recently, but I was getting a little weird. And after I show you this Frankenstein thing that I did, we're going to check out a little video that I made with all of this stuff. Okay, so this here is my beloved Les Paul Studio, and what I did is I taped piezo pickups to my bridge, and then I ran those into a really long stackable cable, and then as you can see, I taped my Loam geophone to the guitar as well, and then that leaves the actual output open. So now I have 3 outputs from this guitar. So what I have done is I run the piezos into the field kit and then pass those signals from the field kit through to some effects, and then I put the geophone into the shaped dual envelope VCA to act as kind of like a bass line, and then ran the actual line out into the board brain injector. So I've spread this signal all over the place through this little modular setup that you're about to see, and it's pretty cool. It's a little noisy, but I think that's all on me. I need to be a little bit more selective on my placement. Also, this geophone is so sensitive, and just by the way I play, I tend to be a little percussive when I play. So getting pops and clicks here and there, but this is just the beginning. My plan right now is to find a guitar that maybe used to be good, that is not so good anymore, and try to turn it into a real Frankenstein beast. I don't want to go drilling holes in my baby here. I've had this guitar for so long, and it's so close to me. And obviously I don't really care too much about the finish. It's like a nice matte finish. Don't mind putting electrical tape on it and whatnot, but I don't want to drill holes in it. But anyways, let's check out this little video that I shot in my kitchen as kind of a proof of concept. It's okay, like I said, but I have a ways to go as far as, ironing out all the clicks and pops and noise and whatnot, but I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, we'll check out this video and then we'll get into our chat with Colin Benders. Colin Benders. We were just talking off the recording, saying this is long overdue, but there's no time like the present. So welcome to Pod Mod, Colin.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I say this often because I often have people that are really really exciting guests. But it's like I feel like there's no way I'm going to be able to cover everything that everybody out there wants me to ask you. So, but you also, you've talked to a lot of people. People know you well and everything. So I want to try to kind of have like a little bit of a funnel of focus, at least for a starting point. So we'll get to that in a second. Sorry, I'm just rambling right now. But first up, how are you?
Good, doing well. It's been a strange year to say the least. Like everything kind of ground to a halt early January last year. As I kind of had an unexpected hospital episode,
Oh
which
no.
took quite a long time to recover from that. And in the months afterwards, I've kind of slowly been getting back up to pace with things. But
Okay,
I'm feeling better than ever and very active and excited to working on some new stuff. So it's
great.
times.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask about? We don't. I don't want to pry or anything, but is
Oh,
that
sure.
something you would like to talk about with the hospitalization or?
Of course, it's just a completely weird thing. So I really don't really know what to make of it myself yet. But what is it? End of um, somewhere towards the end of December in 2021. Man, that's 2021 already. Holy shit.
Yeah, right. I know.
um, it's ridiculous. But no, all of a sudden I got very sick, and then I got a little bit sicker and even sicker, and that was right around Christmas. And over the span of like 2-3 days, I went from just feeling not very fit and optimal to just having searing pain and not being able to sleep anymore, and just completely breaking down. And I ended up in the hospital where they did some tests, and it turned out that my immune system was attacking my muscle structure and sending sending all of my just kind of really all just sending a lot of bad stuff into my bloodstream, and it's something called rhabdomyolysis, which usually, from what I've heard, only happens. Um, I don't even know how it happens really. It's the first things they ask me is like, "Are you on drugs?" And because
Oh.
apparently that's something that
Uh-huh.
that really happens. But in my case, that wasn't the thing, and it actually never really became clear why I got it to begin with.
Hmm.
Um, so it could be something that's triggered by an autoimmune thing that just kind of pops up based on certain conditions, or it could also be just kind of like a one-time fluke.
Mm-hmm.
And we never
Wow.
really found out what it was, but all I know was that it took me a week of lying in the hospital, not being able to move my thumbs because I just had too many muscle cramps and searing pain, even just
Oh my
sending a text
God.
message. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It's kind of like imagine the most insane muscle ache you have after like a serious workout, and just multiply that by infinity, and that's somewhere where you are.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
it was pretty ridiculous, but
Oh, I'm so sorry. That
um,
sounds awful.
yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah. God, how long were you in the hospital?
Was about a week,
Okay.
and it was mostly because they had to monitor a couple of things because along with the muscle stuff also came. Um, I don't know. They were starting to throw around terms like heart failure and stuff like that. So it was really kind of like a whole total organ
Oh my
dropout.
God. Oh my
But,
God.
yeah, it was weird. It was very weird. But luckily, all that kind of recovered, and then I think it took me about 2 months before I could just really walk again, because that took a long time to kind of recover from that. And
Wow.
after that, it was a lot more time kind of just to let everything sink in. Like, holy shit, apparently I'm not 20 again, 20 anymore, you
Wait,
know?
you're still young though, right? You're mid-30s?
Yeah, I'm 36 now. Yeah, I
Okay.
turned 36. So,
Okay.
yeah,
When did you turn 36?
December last year. It's
Oh, okay. Okay.
almost December 5th. So yeah, I've been 36 for 2 whole months now, and
Oh, wow.
feels great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just turned 39 a few days ago, and it's yeah, going to try to enjoy the last of the 30s before I hit 40. But I did buy a proper 40-year-old hat. I left it downstairs, but it's going to be in the intro of this episode. Or no, it'll be in the intro of the other episode. But yeah, I
Nice.
got like a
Yeah.
full brimmed like uh like weather sealed hat, like so I could
Oh,
wear because
fantastic.
yeah, my wife and I go in the woods a whole lot, and we live in the Pacific Northwest, and it rains a lot. So, just
Yeah.
a nice weather sealed, brimmed. Yeah, I'm getting so I feel the pull of 40, like the
Yeah.
like not caring as much about like what actually looks cool and just wearing what I want to
Right.
wear and end up looking pretty ridiculous a lot of the time. But
Oh
that's the
man, but
best
it
part
feels
about getting
liberating.
older. Yeah, absolutely, it's the best part about getting older. Well, yeah, I'm very sorry to hear about that. Like, did that? I'm always curious with stuff like that. Did that inform or add a step of evolution in your creative process, visually or sonically,
Yeah,
or?
I think it did, but mostly in the sense that it really made me stop and think um, about my lifestyle in general.
Hmm.
Because well, yeah, it's like I'm really used to just doing nonstop touring or late nights in the studio or just
Yeah.
fully focused nonstop on music or just being outside and just I don't know acting like a 20-year-old even though I'm that was like 15 years ago, you know. But um, but that was kind of one of those things like yeah, apparently I should probably reconsider some of those things.
Yeah.
And it's mostly
Yeah.
in terms of, for example, the whole yeah, my entire um, focus has always been on live music,
Hmm.
and mostly there was yeah, there became this consideration at one point, like, yeah, what if I can't do this anymore? You know, like, how am I gonna, what am I gonna do? And that kind of kept me busy for the first part of the year. I had to cancel a couple of shows, and that was kind of a real scare and a bummer at the same time.
Yeah.
So that took some figuring out and kind of getting peace with the new situation that I was in. But now I kind of landed at that I'm just gonna try and keep myself in check as much as I can, but I'm not gonna diminish my activities at all because this is all that I want to do. You know, this is what I live for.
Right. Right.
Um, so then from there on, it just becomes a matter of being responsible about it and um, I don't know, maybe not stay up all night for a change and just kind of keep get some vegetables and stuff like that, you
Right.
know. But that was more kind of like on the background of things, and then from a musical stance, I kind of entered this. That's something I'm fully enjoying now. Is that for the first time I don't have a project really lined up. So I have a lot of time to just think about what I want to do next. And there's a whole lot of ideas that I've always kind of been pushing forward because there was always something that got in the way, or there was always just my whole schedule was always fully lined up with things. And I kind of cleared out everything aside from a couple of shows that I still have standing. But apart from that, I I kind of feel like I have all the time in the world I need to just kind of really dig into some projects that I've been wanting to do for ages.
That's a nice
And
feeling.
yeah, that's an amazing feeling. Is it's something I haven't had for yeah, literal years now. I think so.
Hmm.
Um, so that's something I'm fully trying to take as much advantage of as I can. You know.
Totally. Yeah. I'm gonna pause for 1 second. Just a quick clap for editing purposes. Okay, there we go. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like you got like a pretty healthy dose of like perspective in the sense of, you know, the finite nature of life, and hey, this is what I have now, so I'm going to, you know, kind of take advantage of it in a way that isn't full of doom and gloom, and is actually, kind of like a, I don't know. It sounds like there's some gratitude, maybe even in there with the situation, even though it was a very shitty situation. You know.
No, absolutely. It's like it was a full-on reality check for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, stop feeling like you're some immortal being or whatever. It's like it's, yeah, it is pressures in a way, and it's not until something like this happens that you fully realize what that means. And it's
Yeah.
um, so that for me became one of those things where I really decided, like, okay, I want to. I don't know. I want to do something with the rest of my time.
Yes.
Oh fuck! It all sounds so super terminal in a way, and it's nothing like that. It's
Right. Right. No. Yeah. But yeah, I think that
yeah,
that all is like anything, like especially, it's your experience, and I feel like, we get to kind of hang meaning and develop our own, yeah, just kind of like apply our own meaning to the experiences that we have. And I think that could be a really powerful tool to get through traumatic experiences, is by, using it as a learning point and whatnot. So,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Welcome to
Yep.
Tim's Psychology Hour.
Yeah, we jumped into the deep end, like
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I also wanted to bring up, for no reason really, but that he's my step grandfather, but he's really like, he's my grandfather because he's been in my life, so long, and we're really really close. But he's from Holland, and
oh really?
he immigrated to Australia. Well, first he lived in Indonesia as a very small child because his dad
Mm.
worked out there, and then he went to Australia and then ended up here in the States. He just turned 90. But yeah,
Oh wow.
cool dude. He wrote a book about his life. He was in Holland as a really young kid during World War II, and because he was
Oh
like one of the smallest, him and his I think it was his brother who was similar in age, would have to like sneak out because they cleared his town, but they stayed in their house and like hid. And he would like
oh
go on
wow.
little food and wood gathering missions and try to avoid the Nazis and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh
So
my god.
yeah, it was a pretty intense experience for him. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that
great
must
great
be.
guy. So growing up, I always like to ask people, like, what was that journey from discovering music as something that you like to hear, and then the transition into wanting to be a participant and not just a listener? And what was that thing that kind of pulled
Yeah,
you in?
yeah. It's I don't really know exactly, actually, because it's for me, music always has been kind of this anchor as far back as I can remember. Like, some of the earliest memories I have is just entire songs and records that my parents used to play back at home.
Mm-hmm.
And um it's I do know that for as far back as I can remember, music always has been kind of this central role for me. Like, I I've always been a super ADD kid, so my brain just goes all over the place. And especially back then, it was like 1,000 projects every day, and like just working on one thing, dropping it mid
Mm-hmm.
mid
Mm-hmm.
project, finding something else. Just, kind of really the peanut brain kind of. But I do know that always there was kind of this pillar of music somewhere in there. And then at some point, we were at a family gathering, and my uncle, who is he's a jazz piano player, he brought a trumpet to a family gathering, and everyone was kind of messing around with that thing, and I kind of latched onto it and just
Mm-hmm.
didn't let go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And that became kind of my first real obsession, was that instrument, that I really, really wanted to play it. But, well, I didn't have teeth yet, so I had to wait until I developed the teeth needed to actually play it. And then from there on out, it always became, like, most of my projects always kind of revolved around music in some way, shape, or form. Then when I was, I think, 8 years old, I transitioned away from kind of like a normal grad school, or what's the first school you go, like in elementary school, and then you
Yeah,
have,
like junior
yeah,
high or something.
yeah, I guess that it's like somewhere around the age of 8, I moved away from a regular school towards it was a very small school, focused entirely around choir singing, and they would give you like half a day of school, of regular school, and then the other half was like music theory and writing music and um, um, tapping rhythms, but also choir singing, and very much focused on kind of music as a language almost,
Mm-hmm.
to put it that way. Um, so by the time I was like 12 or 13 years old and I went to high school, um, out of all the options that were there for me, the one that kind of felt the most like home to me was going just straight to the conservatory, where they had like a program really geared towards, well, yeah, kids like me who just really wanted to go music full stop, and kind of high school became kind of like this formality,
Mm-hmm.
just something
Mm-hmm.
like you go to
Mm-hmm.
class, that's what you have to do. But music is going to be it anyway, so might as well just fully commit to that. Um, and yeah, so I guess that was really the first transition for me from going fully committed to music, was around that time, when it started dominating so much of my daily life that, I don't know, it wasn't even it doesn't even feel like a conscious decision. It was just like, okay, but apparently this is what I do, and
Right. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
kind of developed
That's
from there, I guess.
yeah. I've actually been thinking about, you know, something. Something you just said reminded me of something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Is just like, my being a musician. It's been, my whole life pretty much just loving music and singing along. And I had a little Fisher Price, like, basically a little
Yeah,
karaoke machine, and
nice.
started playing guitar at 12, and just kind of from then on, it wasn't even like it didn't feel like a decision, and it hasn't felt like a decision since. It's
Right.
just,
Yeah.
no matter what's going on in my life, there's some aspect of something that I'm messing with.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just brought that up, but I think
No,
just
I
the
know.
way you
It makes
said it
perfect
wasn't
sense.
even like, you didn't even really fully like plan it out or think about it that way. It just was like,
Right.
that's the way it goes,
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's exactly like that. Like it was never the decision of, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna be a musician. I'm gonna do this. It's just like, no. It's what are you talking about? I'm sitting here doing this now, and why would I want to do anything
Hmm.
else?
Right, right, yeah, yeah,
Um, so it never really was a question to begin with. It was just like, yeah, of course. So
yeah, yeah.
um, uh, it was actually not until like years later that I, for the first time, started thinking about whether or not I even liked music. I don't know if that even makes
Hmm.
um,
I've had moments. I don't know if this is kind of what it like. If this will resonate, but just what you just said, it's kind of like there have been multiple times in my life where I've been like kind of stopped dead in my tracks, almost like an intrusive thought or an outside voice being like, the this is just making you're just making sounds. Like, how could that be the most important thing? And then, like, I'll start getting like anxiety. I'm like, have I just realized that this is all a waste? But like, and then I think about it and I'm like, no, I fucking love it. So, it doesn't matter. But,
yeah,
have you had
whatever.
that? Just kind of like, what am I doing? Like,
Oh,
it's,
absolutely, absolutely. Oh man. No, that is always kind of like this existential crisis of going like, I really really like this sound, but if I play this to someone, they're gonna just stare at me and be worried. So maybe I
Oh
shouldn't
my,
play this to anyone. And
the life of a
just,
modular synthesis right there
oh
summed
my
up.
god, having hours and hours of recordings of just the noise, and then
Yeah. I was
fade away in a
actually
little. Yeah.
I was away for my birthday just this last weekend. I was at this beautiful lake up on the peninsula of Washington State. It's, it's cold, it's deep, it's snowing.
Nice.
And I brought like two powered pods, my
Oh
7U
yes.
make noise case. I brought my Strega and my Novation Summit and two guitars. And because like I like, and that's something I wanted to ask you in a moment
Yeah.
here. But like I can't go somewhere without bringing at least some. Like I went backpacking a couple of years ago, and I I wanted to bring a guitar because we were going to go for 2 nights, and I was like, I need some sort of sound device, and it was like a
Hmm.
really long and hard hike. So I went and bought a ukulele, and I actually really do not like the sound of ukuleles, but like I needed to have something to have, and
Something.
so yeah, that's a little sidebar. But
Yeah.
yeah, I brought all this stuff, and I'm trying to build this patch with a guitar because I want to go record it outside the next day,
Nice.
and eventually, like people are like, can you play something nice? And I'm like, man, you guys don't get it. You guys don't know what good is. But of course, I mean that's my
Um,
defensive response because it's all relative and it's all personal. But yeah,
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's horrifying when that.
like, oh, I thought this was sounding really fucking cool, and in your head you're thinking like, I bet they're thinking this sounds pretty cool, and then right when you're
Yeah. No.
thinking that, your ego just like, you know, puts you in a position where
Yeah.
you really have to kind of like eat some crow and just be like, ugh.
Reality check.
So I
Yeah.
guess kind of one of the reasons I went on this rant, because it was something I wanted to ask you about when I was thinking about this before we started talking, is I know that you have ADHD, which I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, which learning
Right.
about it has made so many things fall in place and may help me
Lot,
understand
right?
like my behavior. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But like I'm wondering if that's a function of like my ADHD side, that I have to bring some sort of noise making or some sort of creative outlet with me wherever I go, almost like it's like a security blanket or something.
Right. 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 Yep. Um. Yeah. It could be. It's like I do think that there is um yeah, what you'll probably recognize is that there's always at least one uncontrollable obsession in your life. There's
Hmm.
always one thing that you cannot stop thinking about, and it's like it's way beyond your control, and it's always something. And sometimes it is a functional obsession, like when you're in a phase where everything is about music and everything is about productivity or creative output and stuff like that. But then there's also these random other kind of complete sidetracks that can pop up where you just have to finish the internet. You just have to.
Yeah, I got super into painting for a while, and I'm not like a good painter, but like I found this thing that I really like to do, this one thing, and I was doing it for hours a day for months, and then like I just stopped, and now I'm back onto the
Yeah,
music and video thing. But like, so sometimes there's little detours, but I always have something, that I am
nice.
laser focused on. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I wanted to talk with you about your experience with ADHD, and how it has maybe informed, your whole approach
yeah.
and process. But first, like, when were you recently diagnosed, or as an adult, or?
I think I was diagnosed as a kid already, but then I never really did anything with it,
Hmm.
or at least like I never took any of the medication back then and stuff like that, and that was really um, it was just kind of one of those. Well, apparently this is uh, what I have or who I am now, and just moved on from there.
So you
Um,
found your own
and
like ways to manage it and tools and stuff like that.
yeah, pretty much. It's like I have there's a lot of things that still really, really sit in the way of my doing things. Like I can. It doesn't matter how many sticky notes I make of stuff I have to remember. It's I turn around and it's all just, it's like that just doesn't
Can
work.
relate to that.
And it's like there's timing and planning and calendars and all that stuff. Like by now, I kind of gave full control of all my calendar points and stuff like that to both my management and my dad. They're the only people who kind of write stuff in there. And apart from that, I just kind of stay away from that because I just make a mess of things. Like I once managed to make like 5 meetings on the same day and miss all of them. Put them all
yes. Yep.
And then just
double booked.
Forget
yeah.
about
Totally.
So,
and it's so hard to keep track of it, even with calendars and stuff, And
exactly. It's yeah. I don't think there is no amount of calendars or notes or reminders or alarm clocks can kind of hold up against that. And it's so that's something I just kind of had to deal with. And there's a couple of things that I've gotten a lot better at over time, like just working on the little routines and such. But there's also a big part where I just kind of had to embrace the chaos within. So
same. Yep.
Just kind of going, this is what it is, and the tools I've been given. I've once had a period where I tried doing the Ritalin thing, and I just got angry, like, holy shit, so people kind of are this effortless in life on a regular basis without the need of medicating themselves. And for me, it actually takes like just pure amphetamines to get like an inch of focus or clear-mindedness like that. But then I kind of stepped away from it because it started messing with my head. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it the way I'm used to it. But so there's a very big I think people who don't have ADHD don't fully realize what it entails. And it's not so much the big things, it's mostly really kind of like the accumulation of all the small little details
100%.
that you forget.
100%.
Yeah. It's that
and
part.
It's
really,
what's
yeah.
It's really hard because because, and understandably so, it's very taxing on the people you're closest with. Like my wife, like she is an organized person. She is like tidy, and I am chaos. Like my family always jokes that they can tell when I've gone through a room because it looks like a tornado went through it. Picking stuff up, setting it down, doing 15 things at once. So yeah, because when I was in like 3rd grade, I was diagnosed dyslexic, and as I got older, that just kind of like I kind of felt like that was not the correct diagnosis. Because I had that, I thought I was like, well, I'm a stupid person because I was a little kid. And then my parents, they were like, as long as you pass, we're not gonna be mad. Like if I got a C, it was happiness at the home, But then I started realizing that that's the bare minimum, and that was very easy to get C's. So I just got C's, and then I there was like a formative experience with a teacher in my senior year who like gave me the confidence to be like, maybe I am actually like kind of smart, and and then I got super into that, and I went to it was community college, granted, so it's not super impressive, but one quarter I was just like, I want to get a 4.0, and I did, and I was like, okay. And so as with stuff like that, it was kind of like, I think I want to get tested for ADHD. And I did. And like the questionnaire, I was like, this is like the story of my life. A lot of the stuff. I was just like, how have I not figured this out by now?
No, that makes sense. Yeah. It's,
So another reason I wanted to ask you about this, because there's kind of like this trifold thing that's been going through my head in preparation for this, is there's the ADHD thing, and then you did the Kiteman Orchestra, which is a very, very involved thing. And then you go from like, it actually like And that with just our conversation so far today is all made so much sense, because something that's always been very perplexing to me about what you do is how you are able to use a gigantic system like super efficiently, like make great music. Like I feel like if I go beyond 9U, my music actually starts to get way worse.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So like I think while we both have ADD, I think it manifests in different ways in different people, and that just seems like super impressive to me. So yeah, like I don't know if that, I didn't really ask a question, but that if that inspired anything to kind of respond with.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't know. It's like one of the things that I've always um fuck, where do I begin with this? There's a lot of
Well, I kind of put it on you, so that was bad hosting. I was like, here's a bunch of topics and do my job.
but it's no, I think the one thing that I always loved about music is how it felt effortless in a way. It's there is well, of course, there's multiple ways of going about music, and one of them is very much the super organized and structured and kind of architectural design of like a chunk of sound organized in a way that it pleases you. But then there's also kind of the other one, which feels a lot more almost like a conversation. Like there is someone poses a moment and someone else responds to it, and kind of that whole interaction that goes on between that is just a very organic way of having a conversation with someone without words. You know, it's kind of uh, kind of like multiplayer puzzles, so to say. Kind of have the objective of here's an emotion, we're gonna cryptographically wrap it up in sound, and then someone else on the other end has to guess the emotion that you put into it. And if you have it correct, then you get rewarded with happy vibes, you know, something like that. And you can do that with other people without knowing the piece that you're playing, just kind of by throwing sounds at each other until you sync up and feel like you're enhancing each other, and kind of almost as if you're having like the most awesome conversation you ever had where you fully agree with someone, just end up going right, yes, exactly this. And that is, to me, the most awesome experience I've ever had when making music, was having musicians around me and having everyone to that point where whatever happened, everyone knew exactly what everyone else meant and how to play into it and how to still surprise each other. And that was the orchestra pretty much. It started with a project where I really wanted to prove, mostly to myself, that I was able, that I was capable of finishing a project. That was really the only goal that I set out doing. Is I wanted to make my own. I played with other bands and I toured everywhere and done a bunch of stuff, but never something for myself. And this was in a period where I just dropped out of school. I just finished a tour. There wasn't that much going on in my life outside of just making stuff, and it kind of felt like a dead end on a lot of levels. But that kind of project was the only thing that was really kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. So it became very important to me to finish that project. And then by the time it was finished, there were enough people in my surroundings that were kind of eager to see what was next of it, that I, after dropping the idea of, you know what, let's just form an orchestra and play all these parts with live music, that people actually agreed to doing that, and musicians started contacting me, and people just really started flocking to that idea. And for me, the big eye-opener moment of that was like, holy shit, these are people. You know, these are not just instruments, not just kind of sounds that I'm playing. It's actual people with their own intentions, their own lives, their own minds and feelings and thoughts. And that became a real big obsession to me, was how can I remove kind of like the architectural structure of music and replace it with kind of the effortlessness of just making music and feel and having a conversation with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a project that I fully dove in on, where I kind of developed a sign language and a whole kind of recipe or a composition based on full on improvisation,
Mm-hmm.
where with sign language people could um, just kind of write out chords or write out melodies, or just in the
That's awesome.
moments do
Mm-hmm.
like full composition. And this was kind of the last project I did with the orchestra, and also the first project I started on the modular when I made that transition. Um, and it's something that I have kept developing ever since. So even now that I'm playing on my own and it's just me and the modular, so to say, I'm still approaching it as a fully improvised a one take session of just exploring sounds and exploring vibes, exploring melodies and chords, and throwing it all together into tension spans and just riding it like a wave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it all kind of stems from the same core of um, music as an adventure versus music as a construct, so to say.
Totally. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's also this is also in a way where the ADD part kicks in, because if well yeah if I try and sit down now and really work on one track or work on one song, I lose my I just kind of lose focus right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I can make like 1,000 beginnings of tracks and stuff like that and not finish anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like piles and piles of lost recordings everywhere. But if I just sit down with the instrument and just start playing and just following my instincts on it and following my intuition, then usually something happens that I like, and then it kind of feels like diary entries almost versus something that I really. And
I'm
that's
the exact same way. Yep. If I
right.
sit down to
Yeah.
try to write something that might, like a loose idea in my head, it's like, okay, I want to do this or that, I'm ripping patch cables out. I'm
Yeah.
like thinking I should quit. Um, but yeah, but if I'm just like, I'm just gonna like explore, and these are the modules that are maybe most exciting to me today, so I'm gonna explore these. And I think that's also why modular has been such a wonderful playground for my brain, and it sounds like yours as well. Because yeah, if I'm sitting down to play a drum track and I'm trying to record, live drums, and I'm feeling off that day, like it's not gonna end in a good way. But like with the patch, at least like I can make something that would be good for a bed, for a cool shot at some point that I film, or like I can get to some sort of result.
Yeah.
And but this will be something, this is kind of sacrilegious, and I'm a little embarrassed to say it to you because of just how fucking amazing you are at modular synthesis. But like, I don't really use sequencers. Like, I'll use random gate sequencers and random voltage, like sometimes, but like, I just do not like if I sit down to try to write a sequence on a sequencer, I lose all the joy, all the air is sucked out of the process, and I have no interest in it. So that's what I've been playing guitar a lot with the modular lately, and I'm like, this is my zone here. So
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. So when you say you've been playing guitar with your modular, uh, uh, should I kind of envision that in the way that, for example, Sarah Bell Reed plays the trumpet with modular, or is it are you?
I'm doing a lot of processing. Like, I know, like, you won't necessarily even hear the actual trumpet when Sarah's playing. She's more using it as her like control, which I am doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm doing a little both. So I have a couple different, basically interfaces for 1/4-inch jacks that develop that envelope generators and gate generators off of the signal that goes in. So I usually use all of that to, for my clock, and then modulation of modulators. And Yeah, Strega, lots of delay and reverbs, but I'm also really getting into using wave folders to make like a
Mm,
wicked fuzz.
nice. Yeah.
So yeah, just because I was so into guitar pedals, that was kind of the seed that was planted before I got into modular, and you can just do so much more with modules. So I'm basically like building a
Yeah.
little, like I'm afraid that I'm becoming the edge, and I don't want to do
Right.
that. But I am almost 40, so it's you don't know how these things can creep in. But I mean, I have like I'm more if I am going to do something melodically on modular, what I've been doing kind of lately that fits my needs is like using a desktop synth like my Summit, or I got a Soma Enter, or just a piano, and then recording something and putting that into a sampler, and then using that as my melodic base for what I want to build on top of. So
Awesome.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
someday maybe I'll get into into sequencing, but it's just
Nice. It's funny
doesn't,
because
yeah.
actually I'm trying to um my go-to has always been sequencing, and I am dreaming of an escape from that. It's
Hmm.
I'm so super sequence minded where everything always becomes kind of like these very purposefully placed notes and stuff like that, but it always kind of sticks to a certain grid.
Hmm.
And I have a certain sound in mind, but I don't know how the patch will work yet, or
Hmm.
even what it's, yeah, how to really do it. Um, but
Can
I
you
do
can
know
you
that.
like expound upon that patch at all, or do you want to like keep that close to the vest
Sure.
until you figure it out?
Oh, no, 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 not at all. It's let me see. So, for example, um, how should I put it? Right now, for example, my arpeggios and stuff like that are either they come from the Era 101, or it's a Metropolis where I just kind of slide my finger in a scale and it
Hmm.
does something.
Hmm.
But something I really want to do a lot more with is like one patch I have in mind is basically having something like 16 quantizers in a row set up in kind of complementary scales, where the lower notes will kind of have bigger intervals, and the higher up in the on the intervals you go, or the higher up in the octave you go, the more granular it becomes.
Hmm.
Um, and then kind of controlling the voltage on the incoming side of those quantizers with offsets, so that I can, with one knob, just feed everything just a flat CV, and then
Hmm.
slowly open it up to kind of create these rising, erupting structures. And then from there on, I'm thinking mostly in terms of either triggered envelopes that are coming in on the quantizer side, or just very long morphing LFOs to go in there. But then basically what you get is, if you close everything down, I would do it in such a way that the filters also kind of close along with it, so you can really kind of get this very muffled, kind of drony ambience. And the
Hmm.
more you open it, you have to picture this with something anywhere between 16 and 64 voices, just kind of going
Hmm.
full range there. But then as you open it up, it would kind of be almost like a sunrise moment where everything just kind of just blooms up, and the fuller it becomes, the more open the filters become, and the more upper structures you get, and everything just kind of morphing into a colossal cloud of super chaotic harmonies and stuff like that, just
Hmm.
structuring
Hmm.
themselves. And
Man, mixing that
basically something.
sounds hard.
Well, no, but I think I have the idea for the patch, how I want to do it. I just need more modules, and that's pretty
Yeah.
much how
I feel like that's
it's
going to be
always.
the quote of the episode. I need more modules,
Oh,
Colin Benders. Everybody's going to be like,
no, but it's such a problem, because it's always somehow all of my new ideas, they always end up with, okay, this is my shopping list for this project, and then just like there's crates full of modules that I'm not using in my wall right now.
yep.
and
Yeah.
somehow it's never the modules that I need for the project that I have in mind. So it's getting ridiculous. You know, it's I've
I feel
tried.
you.
Oh man.
I feel you. But like again, like so, I go to a small like my thing is like I want to I want a smaller system because I do a lot of remote performances. I like to go out to pretty places, record a performance, and then edit a video together. And I don't want to bring a bunch. I want to bring as little as possible, really.
Makes sense.
So my whole thing has been like I need to find, like, oh, I just need one power pod, right? Well, now I have two power pods, and now I'm like, well, I think I need one more powered pod. And then you could be thinking, well, you do have your Make Noise 7U, and it's like, no, but I want to be able to like interchange, like not use them
Yeah.
all at once, but interchange them for different needs. Like, okay, this is going to be a guitar one, this is going to be a sample based one, this might be all three, but
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
three
That
systems. But
makes sense. Yeah. It's the modular. That's
total,
yeah.
yeah, and it's just like, and that's that obsessive part of the brain that starts, you know, oh, and then I could do
Hmm.
this, and then I could do this, and then you're on Amazon for an hour and a half looking for the perfect laptop stand because all the synth stands are too expensive, and it's just, oh, yeah,
The pain, the real pain. It's
yeah, right.
yeah, no, for sure.
So have you like built out? Have you built out like attempts at this patch and gotten close to what you're looking for? Or?
I've gotten close on a smaller scale a couple of times, but what I noticed pretty soon is that um, yeah, it needs uh, um, yeah, how should I put it? Um, it needs volume and mass and um, 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 yeah, the bigger the patch, the better it's going to sound, really.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you just have like two or three parts that are playing this, then well, yeah, you could almost set it up kind of like a Fuga generator that way. Like you can almost program it according to Bach's rules of composition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you just have it like with three or four parts. But if you blow it up, that's where it really becomes this organism, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
it's with the attention, and so far it does work, but I think it needs to be a lot denser than what I've done so far. And I do have a couple of the um, like the controller side of things. I have that in check, like with those Bird Kids, the pecking order modules that I have. I would be able to control all the CVs and all the offsets that I would need for this. Um, but I really think it's gonna take at least 16 or 32 quantizers to really get it done.
Well, I had
Um,
an idea. Just I'm kind of like racking my brain, and don't worry, dear listener. It's not lost on me the ridiculousness that I was going to try to give Colin advice here, but just some ideas that popped in my head. I think the spherical the SWN by 4MS. It's got all
yeah,
those different voices, and it has its own like modes or keys on it that are
mhm,
CVable. And I think you
yeah,
could even have the individual voices in their own key. I believe mine's on the way. I haven't really played with it, but from what I've gathered, so it
yeah,
could be a way to get a lot of voices and keys without having to have as many quantizers because it's already quantized. Or even
fair,
their even another 4MS module, the ensemble oscillator has but you can program your own scales
yeah,
into it and stuff. So like,
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah. There's a bunch of ways to go around it on that side. It's mostly on the aspect of triggers and the chaotic nature of all the individual parts shifting at unpredictable moments,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
having that is like a massive on a massive scale.
Right, yeah.
Um,
Are you so are
so
you using random for some for like the triggers and for opening and changing of or
that's I, I would want it to be random. Like one of the favorite patches that I have, um, yeah, one of the favorite patches that I've used is kind of focused around the trigger riots.
mm-hmm.
Um, where I have the trigger ride set up in a way where all the gates are opening with like random predictability. So
Okay.
so it's like only once every yeah, if I give them like 2 or 3% chance of opening up and really slow down the clock far enough, then you really get like one trigger every so many cycles.
Right, right,
But
yeah.
if you then take those trigger outputs and stuff them back into clock multipliers, and clock multipliers, then you get a whole bunch of clocks at a more frequent rate, which all sound completely detached from each other, but still in a way that they all um, um, removed, yeah, removed far enough in a couple of orders of degrees from, yeah, in enough orders of separation from the source, they still all behave to the same, albeit chaotic ground clock that the
Mm-hmm.
trigger ride is on.
Okay.
So um, this way, you would have 8 trigger sources that can all just be super chaotic and all over the place, but still feel like they are part of the same family tree, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Man,
and
so many ideas are popping in my head. I
oh
promise
yeah,
I'll try not to be like this module, this module, this module. But I
oh
do
no,
have,
please do.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think the item from Mystic Circuits paired with their tree and leaves. I think you could go really, really far with those three modules in that regard. And
nice.
yeah, like, well, there was another one. Oh, another one for like voice that I could see really like adding to that like heavenly like bigness is the panharmonium from Rossum. It's weird.
Ooh,
It's really squirrely, but in a really fun way, and it sounds
okay,
absolutely insane. It's actually like
nice.
a it actually is like a it's almost like a vocoder but for oscillators, but it doesn't sound like a vocoder. It like so you put it can do its own sound, but it also will like process the sound in a very very crazy fun way.
I am gonna write this down right away because I actually haven't played Harmonium yet. Um, so this needs to be on my shopping list.
It's big and expensive, but I think it is very cool.
Fair enough.
And the three body from Schlappy Engineering, it has this mode called ratio mode, so it's three digital oscillators. But if you're in the second and third oscillators, if you have those in ratio mode, they basically will change along with the primary oscillator. So if you put like
Hmm.
a voltage into the ratio instead of the 1 volt per octave in, you get these really wild like it's hard to explain. It's not like steps in a scale, but you can just kind of go up these like different like octave ranges and stuff, and it's very
Is it?
very interesting sounding.
Does that sound like it's kind of is it reacting to the overtones of certain skills, or is it doing something entirely
I think it
different?
kind of depends on what you're sending it and the level of your FM index, and then you're actually like your there's like the coarse tuning, and then there's the fine tuning, which in the ratio mode goes to like a division, so you can almost like you can change like the octaves
Mm.
and the amount of like
Yeah,
octaves
yeah.
you're, but it's not just octaves. It kind of like there's you can it I don't know. I feel like I'm not explaining it very well, but it's not just octaves, and I've got some really fun results out of just sending
Sweet.
attenuated slow LFOs into different parameters,
Mm.
and you can go from beautiful sine wavy softness to like harsh like tinny you know
Right. Really meaty stuff, and okay.
yeah, it's like a digital Benjamin that's way more musical, kind of
Ah,
like a lot of
sweet.
cross modulation and stuff. And there's something like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 13 waveform outputs.
Okay.
So there's four for the second and third, and then the rest are for the primary. So it's got like you can do quadrature on it pretty easily. Um, yeah, it's very cool.
Nice. Okay, that sounds awesome. I'm gonna look into that. What was the name of that one again? This is
Three Body by Schlappy Engineering.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's a real special piece of equipment.
Cool.
They might be hard to get right now, but I don't know if they're back in stock. But um,
I'll have a look around.
yeah. This week's episode is brought to you by Patchworks, our lovely synth shop here in Seattle, the place where I got both of my 4MS powered pods. And after this weekend, I'm thinking I might want to get a third one. And you're like, well, why do that when you have a 7U case? And it's like, because I have the 7U case too. I want one to be like my guitar rig, like the interface that I get my guitar into my modular system, and some envelope following and some CV control with the guitar. Then I want one for effects, and then I want one for my samplers, which include the STS. I love this sampler. This is the second one I've owned, and I bought this at Patchworks. So if you would like to visit Patchworks online, please go to patchwerks.com, and they will solve all your synthesizer needs. Well, I mean, shit, we're so close to an hour, and I hope the listeners aren't too mad that I kind of commandeered a lot of this time to just give you modular recommendations. But before we go, I did want to ask a question, because like your full length album, I was listening to last night, and my favorite way to listen to especially like electronic music is, it takes me a little bit to fall asleep, but I can usually hit that kind of like liminal state in a few minutes where I'm conscious, but it's definitely a different mode of consciousness. And that's my favorite kind of mode of consciousness, to ingest electronic music. So I was in that, and I was listening to Rigmarole. And
Okay. You picked that one to go to sleep?
well, so here's the thing. That first track, I was like, okay, well, I might actually just fall asleep. And then, it starts really like picking up. And, but I feel like you exercise such restraint on that. And I don't know if I was trying to think of the word. I'm actually going to look this word up really quick, because I want to make sure it's the right word. It's a masterclass in understated, like complicated modular technique. Like,
Wait. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, understated is the word. I just wanted to make sure I was right. It's presented or expressed in a subtle and effective way. Like the restraint and just how understated it was, to me, like showed I felt like that's where I really saw a lot of your skill and artistry, is the way that you were just morphing things and growing them. And then you'd think this is where it's going to open up, and okay, not quite yet. And you brought that filter cut off just one notch below the part where everybody's going to pump their fists, and okay, no, we got to wait.
Right. Nice. Yeah.
That's kind of like my, that's like my take on that. And I feel like that is a little bit different than some of the stuff that I've seen you do with like live streaming and live shows. So I wanted to ask, like, going into an album, how does that differ from going into, playing a big live show or something, like as far as like mind state, intention, and everything?
Oh, I think the funny thing with the Rigmarole one is that it was actually recorded during a live stream.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that was it's a weird one with this one, because I've listened back to most of the live jams by now, and it's I can't keep up with all of them, because there's especially during the lockdown, there was so much recording and streaming going on that I just kind of skipped through a couple of the jams that I've done back then, just looking for the right sections. Like, this one feels nice, this one feels good, and that's also how Floaty Things, for example, came about. But then with Rhythm, this was one jam just from beginning till the end, taken from one night of streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And um, it's exactly what you mentioned now, kind of um, especially with the "This Is Fine" track, like the opening of the entire Rigmarole album. The hypnotic nature of how that one came about is what really made me think, okay, this needs to. I really want to have this one pressed on vinyl and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
keep it for the archives, because it's something that I'm looking for a lot during streams and during jams and with shows and stuff like that. But there's always something that kind of leaves it just out of grasp, or something where I get just a little bit too caught up in a moment, or too excited doing something, or
Mm-hmm.
there's always something that is too something.
Mm-hmm.
And with this one, it just felt it felt the right amount of everything that I wanted in there. So that's why I decided, like, okay, I'm just gonna release this one as an album, because I'm proud of this moment, and
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good timestamp to keep in my archives, so to say.
Okay. All right.
Um,
That's a cool
but it's
answer. I like that answer. Yeah. Yeah.
sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but it's definitely, especially with the "This Is Fine" track, and with the second track of that record, and actually also with the fourth track on there. Um, there's something, um, I don't know. It's hypnotic, and it was hypnotic while playing it or while recording it, and now listening back to it, it just kind of uh, uh, puts me back in a different moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
This was like peak lockdown, where it was just kind of like no one on the streets, no one anywhere, and just this weird twilight zone of waking up, opening up your Discord, opening up YouTube, and starting streaming, and
Mm-hmm.
just connecting with people who are all locked in their own ways. And um, it's there's there's a certain vibe to that period, which I think is captured in that recording. So
Totally. Yeah.
um,
I love the sonic journal aspect of that you like that is because I'm a big nostalgia guy, and I think music is one of the like best time capsules for re-feeling a particular feeling that you had in the past, like. So yeah, I have like patches and videos that I've done, like at Yellowstone, and just mostly when my wife and I go on our week-long anniversary camping trip, and those always feel like that vibe of that week, and it's like I'm really
right,
happy to have those as like an archive.
yeah,
But yeah, like
yeah,
it's so that when I was listening to it, I was thinking to myself, I was like, this sounds like, like a one take stereo out performance, but it also sounds like a very, very intentionally built arc and
right.
piece that is an album. And that right there, I feel like is a really special thing, because if I'm my live performance setups are usually much different than how I'm going to do, approach a song for recording. And there's probably a million reasons why that is, but I don't need to go into that. But the fact that you were doing both of those, and again, like with the emphasis on the restraint and patience that you had on that, I feel like if people are maybe not feeling great about their live sets and are wondering why, I think pacing could be a thing. And if you're out there and that gels with what you're hearing, go listen to this album and study it, because I think it's a powerful lesson in all that. So
Sweet. Thanks so much.
yeah.
Thank you.
I love when I go on rants and then I basically put the guest in a position to either say, yeah, I'm pretty badass, or just like, okay, thanks, but like, what do I say now? But yeah, okay, I'm done with that. But we're over an hour and we barely scratched the surface, so I think that means that, hopefully we'll have to have you back on at some point in the not too distant future. I do like a bonus section for Patreon subscribers, but if you are short on time, like it doesn't take too much longer, but if you're down to do that.
I got nowhere to go.
Okay, cool.
I'm here.
All right, before we get into that, let's do a proper closing. What would you like to point the everyday listener in the direction of, or what would you like to scream from the modular mountaintops, if anything?
Oh my God. Wow, so many things that come to mind. I'm completely blanking out right now. Oh my God. Yeah, maybe. And that is not so much from a modular perspective, but from just this is something awesome to listen to. I've been obsessed with William Fields lately.
Okay.
Have you ever listened to?
No, I'm gonna get that in the search bar right now, just so I don't forget.
It's William Fields. It's from what I can tell, he's fully digital and fully in the box, and everything is. I think he does everything with super collider patches,
Okay.
and stuff like. But he made one album somewhere, I think 2017 or 2018, and it's a full-length album of 1 minute tracks.
Oh, cool.
And it's such a schizophrenic mindfuck, really, of completely.
That's
all
right
over
up
the
my
place.
alley. Oh, I'm excited about this.
It's amazing. It's like Richard Devine on acid, I guess.
Oh shit, that's.
And yeah, no, I was completely blown away when I first heard about it. It was Speedy J told me about this one. He was like, "Yeah, no, you're gonna dig this," and I kind of started listening to that one and I went like, "Yeah, this is kind of the pinnacle of bleeps and bloops, and everyone deserves to know."
All right, sweet.
Yeah, that's probably my one recommendation for everyone. Like, listen to William Fields, and you're gonna hate it or you're gonna love it. But either way, I'm gonna have inflicted that on you.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So on to the Patreon portion. I was going to ask you, like, what is something that you're super into lately, but you kind of just answered that.
Yeah, that one.
I mean, I usually don't like to put modular stuff behind the paywall, but I don't think that this one is something that people be too bummed or whatever. I don't care. I'm going to ask it anyways, because I am very curious. But a handful of modules, what are the like staples for you and your setup? Like if you the ones you couldn't live without, if you had to get rid of all but 5 behind you in that monster class. Yeah.
I have to get rid of everything. And how many modules can I pick?
5. All right, that's our show. Thank you so much to Colin for coming on. Thank you for coming back. And if it's your first time, then welcome. I would also like to say thank you to Patchworks for their continued support of PodMod. Please visit them online at patchworks.com, patchwerks.com. Also, thank you to Novation. You know I love my Summit. I really need to find some sort of like solar-powered generator so I can get that thing out in the field, because I really want to use it in some of my remote performances. Also, thank you to 4MS for their support of Modular Modcast. I'm loving all these new modules. The shaped dual envelope VCA is one of my favorite modulators that I think I've used ever. I love the mini peg, the SCM. Also, this isn't new, but it's new to me, and if you don't know about it or haven't tried it out, then I highly recommend the Swan or SWN or Spherical Wavetable Navigator. You could put that in its own little pod. You don't even have to be a modular synthesist. Like, you could just use that as a synthesizer. Insanely robust, but yet really, really easy to use. I was very intimidated by it. It's been on my wish list for a long time, but I mean, RTFM, just get the manual out and there's nice tutorials, just easy right in, and whew, yeah, I cannot wait to share some of the cool stuff that I'm going to come up with that. What else? Don't forget about the Patreon, patreon.com/Podular Modcast. Going to be passing on a bunch of cool stuff from my studio mid to late March, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that. And this week's secret word is Yojimbo. My grandma did this painting for me. I love it. And I want to tell you the story about it, but I will do that later because we don't have time today, and I want you to tell me What is Yojimbo? What is this? I can tell you this. This is a spot-on painting. It looks exactly like Yojimbo. So I guess you kind of know. But, with more detail. Anyways, I digress. Until next week.